It's exactly 11 p.m. in Abuja and Lagos in Nigeria. In Johannesburg, South Africa, it's midnight, and in Ghana, it's 10 p.m. Hello and welcome to News at 10. I am Kwesi Asare. In the next 30 minutes, we bring you the latest stories from across the country and beyond. But first, the day's news highlights. The former President John Dramani Mahama says the new Patriotic Party government has not fulfilled a single promise it made in its 2016 campaign. The former president says the NPP has lost focus in the administration of the state that's making every Ghanaian cry over poverty. In other news, the Inspector General of Police, David Asante has ordered officers across the country to stop impounding vehicles with DV and DP number plates at midnight. According to an internal memo issued to all commanders, the IGP contends the road traffic regulations do not authorize such arrests. Now, in less than 24 hours after blaming the GBC boss for TV license brouhaha, the Information Minister Mustafa Hamid has backed down on his words. He declined comments after Peter Kwao Adato on the matter, saying the decision by the National Media Commission should be final. Elsewhere, the deputy ranking member of the Employment Committee of Parliament, Richard Kwashiga, has rebutted the Ghana Immigration Service defense for the sale of e-vouchers, describing it as extortion. His argument is based on a similar exercise 2 years ago, where the process was suspended without refunding the monies to the applicants. There's many more stories coming up in the next 30 minutes. But first, the big story. You're welcome to News at 10 live from Adesawe here in Accra. My name is Kwesi Asare. Let's begin with the very first story. And agriculture in Ghana consists of a variety of agricultural products and is an established economic sector. It also provides employment on a formal and informal basis. While agricultural crops, including yams, grains, cocoa, oil palms, kola nuts, and timber, form the basis of agriculture in Ghana's economy. In the 1990s, agriculture employed 53.6% of the total labor force in Ghana. However, the absence of data on the number of farmers in Ghana, as well as the crops and quantity being produced, makes it difficult to tell if the sector is growing as expected. This has also affected access to investment, as one cannot give the needed information to convince investors on the need to put money in that sector. Well, financial institutions have also ranked the sector as a high-risk sector due to the lack of data on the contribution of farmers to the economy. So how can we generate the right data to help improve the agri sector? Right, so we've been joined in studio by Yaw Santini, who is a farmer and also devoted a bit of time to collect data on farmers. Thank you very much, sir, for your time, and good to have you in the studio. So first of all, what do you make of the performance of the agriculture sector in the past years?
Well, thank you. And agriculture sector in Ghana has already been supporting Ghana's economy since time immemorial. And we believe with agriculture, the vision of the His Excellency Nana Addo of Ghana Beyond Aid, if we use agriculture, that's actually vision will be achieved.
And rightly said, indeed, over the past few years, the agriculture's contribution to GDP has consistently declined. And what do you attribute that to?
I think it's because of lack of data. Data to be able to make a good decision, to be able to provide the actual statistics of the economy, of the agriculture sector. So I believe data is the main issue.
I know you've begun the collection of data on farmers. What's the rationale behind that?
We believe, or let's put it this way, to develop agriculture sector, we require to develop the value chain. And to be able to develop a value chain, we actually required a data to be able to develop a value chain. Because with the data, all the actors on a value chain can be on one particular platform, so that the dissemination of information becomes very easy. And assessment of information becomes very easy. So risk will be reduced and productivity will be increased. How
do you collect that data and how much of investment has gone into it?
As we speak now, with the software itself, over 5 million Ghana cedis has gone into it. We required about $4 million to be able to collect 702,000 farmers' data across the SADA zone.
And how are you going to make this money?
Well, we are trying to collaborate with the banks, Ministry of Agri, and other non-governmental institutions, development partners, to be able to do that. But basically, the banks, because that is the opportunity for the banks.
So you've begun making some investments, you began collection of data, and this has been over which period?
This started in 2016 with initial support from SADA. I should acknowledge the CEO, Mr. Charles Abogre, saw the vision and actually decided to support.
And what does the data consist of?
We are collecting the KYC data.
What's that?
Which include know your farmer or know your customer, which include the bio data, the fingerprint data, the facial image, the legal ID, the communication data, the previous farming activities data, the assets relating to agriculture, and also the banking data. Once we got all this data, we picked the 10 fingerprints, because every activity running this particular platform is on biometric and it's offline.
So once you've got this data, what's the next step?
Once we have got the data of the farmer will be issued with a card, which this card consists of 3 main wallets: the KYC wallet, the agro wallet, and the e-wallet. With the agro wallet, this will enable the farmer's intention, which is the following year farming activity, will be collected to generate the farmer's budget. Once the budget is generated, this can be given to investors to support the farmers. Once the farmers investors has been supporting the farmers, we need also to protect the investors' investment. So we then follow it up with a yield update, where the investors could actually see the progress report of the individual farmers from their comfort of their home. Once all this is done, then the farmers' yield update could also support up to the market level, and then we can then use the payment platform for the payment. So this becomes more or less like a cashless platform.
I know this is a pretty much difficult question, but how convinced are you that this will bring about some incremental progress in the performance of the agricultural sector? Mind you, we've seen projects like the Ghana Agricultural Production Survey, which has not really lived up to expectations.
I believe this will bring tremendous increase in agricultural production, because we are bringing along all the actors in agricultural value chain, which has never happened in the country. We have the financial institutions, we have the input distributors, we have the mechanization service providers, we have the farmers on a single platform. So whatever the challenges are could be addressed by those members of the platform. And then that will foster the increment in agriculture production.
I need to bring you our next question. And this has to do with metrics in terms of measurement. What do we really expect in the next 5 years?
We are expecting within the next 5 years to have about 702,000 farmers registered. We are looking at raising the investment required by farmers within the next 5 years, putting this system into place, over $4 million investment into investment into Ghana agriculture sector. And also, we are looking at production from a line size of 3 acres per farmer. If you are supporting 60% of such farmers, we are looking at about land preparation of about 1.2 million hectares of farm to be cultivated in the next 5 years.
I've got to say a big thank you to you, Mr. Yaw Santini, Executive Chairman of 3 Steps Dairy Company Limited, for your time this evening on News at 10. I'm sure that we'll be monitoring the progress of your work and definitely updating our viewers on the extent of work. Thank you very much for your time. You're still watching News at 10 live from Adesawe in Accra. We'll return with some more stories. You're welcome back to News at 10 live from Adesawe here in Accra. To other stories now. And the Inspector General of Police, David Asante PA2, has ordered officers across the country to stop impounding vehicles with DV and DP number plates at night. Well, according to an internal memo issued to all commanders, the IGP contends the road traffic regulations do not authorize such arrests.
Sections 45 to 50 of the Road Traffic Act, Act 683, 2004, as well as Regulations 23 and 24 of the Road Traffic Regulation 2012 LI 2180 are clear on the use of DV and DP number plates. A motor vehicle which is not being used on that road commits an offence and is liable on a summary conviction to a fine of not less than 500 penalty units and not exceeding 1,000 penalty units, or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years, or to both. Acting on the directive of road traffic regulations, the police MTTD has for many years been checking the abuse of trade plates in the country. However, the Inspector General of Police, David Asante PA2, earlier this week directed with immediate effect an end to arrest of motorists with trade license plates. According to the directive, the use of DV plates between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. is no longer a crime and therefore unlawful for officers to impound vehicles with such number plates and arrest their drivers. The IGP warned that any officer found to have flouted the directive will be sanctioned.
Now, on the DV-DP trade plates, the Director General of the Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service, ASP David Eklu, was on this evening's major bulletin, that's News 360, and interacted with my colleague Asa Moni. Let's take a listen to that.
Driving DV or DP number plates after 6 p.m. was an offense. We have just heard, from our bulletin this evening, that it has changed. What has changed and why?
Yes, what has changed is that the IGP, as you said, as you heard in the news, has directed that the use of DV plates between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. in the night, that's for the police, does not infringe on any of the road traffic regulations. So police officers should stop restricting the movements or arresting people who use these DV plates because of time.
So, what was the law that the police was using to stop people from?
Yes.
Was there any law in a way?
In the statement that we issued, the release that we issued, there had been several complaints from users of DP and DV plates numbers that police have been restricting their movement, especially in the night. And we checked our records, and it shows that in 2007, there was a police order asking police officers to restrict the use of DV plates between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. because of some security reasons. But when the complaints kept coming, we wrote to the DVLA, who are the authorized agents to issue DP plates. And when they checked, they realized that that order is no longer valid because it is in conflict with the current road traffic regulation 21782 of 2012. That did not indicate the time of usage of DP or vehicles bearing DP or DP plates, or what we call trade license.
So what is replacing that right now? Does it mean people are free to drive unlicensed cars, uninsured cars, anytime, any day in the night?
For now, the law says that you can drive these vehicles on the road under certain conditions. And the release that we put out says that, yes, the police cannot stop you for using that vehicle because of time. But there are certain conditions that you must meet.
So should we still hang those DV or how do you call it, the DP and DV plates on the cars and registered cars?
In the release that we issued, which I hope you would run in detail, shows that yes, it is compulsory as part the law.
It is required that we.
It is required that you fix it, not just fix it on the bonnet or at the back, but in front and at the back of the vehicle. As there's a place indicated for fixing those.
For number plates.
Just like regular number plate number, it must be fixed there, and the driver must also have a logbook, and he should produce it when the police officer in uniform demands, requires it. And there are certain entries that, or certain entries that you must make in the logbook indicating where you are going, the time, and the name of the driver. Those conditions are still there.
In other news, the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Security and Counter-Terrorism, Emmanuel Coutin, has warned of a major security threat this year if government does not address the unemployment situation in the country. He therefore outlined some expectations from government in the security sector for the year 2018. He spoke with my colleague, Godfrey Tanam.
If the government of His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo really wants to proceed with what they promised Ghanaians, there are two major things they have to look at. One, the unemployment situation of our youth, because that is one single threat that I foresee that can paralyze this country. So they need to take very urgent steps and roll out their policies that they have promised Ghanaians, and their communicators must know that elections are over. We are now running a government, and they must know how they communicate that to even the lay person at the grassroots. Propaganda doesn't work, and Ghanaians are such that they will give you all the briefing space, but when they run out of patience, they will turn against you and you can never know. The other aspect I want the president to focus is our security agencies. You see what happened last week? I think it's quite pathetic about our immigration service. Sad that you have only 500 job vacancies, yet you sell over 84,000 forms. You are exploiting the already vulnerable youth who doesn't have jobs, and I think the government should come out clearly and let the other security agencies know we can continue on that tangent. And the government can do this by instructing the immigration service to refund monies to people who bought the forms and they were not selected.
A reminder, you're still watching News at 10 live from Adesawe. You're welcome back. Now, residents of Sakuma District District are crying for improved roads. A stretch linking Ebuakwa, a community close to the district capital and the rest of the central region, is in a poor state.
The district produces cocoa and other foodstuff. A poor road network is, however, a setback to development. Several hours are spent on the stretch. The only road linking Ebuakwa to other parts of the district is collapsing.
I want to entreat the current government, the DCA and the MP, that they should focus on the road. And I also plead to the road minister and Nana Addo that our plea is to come and help a Sakuma Odobin Brakwa roads.
Efforts to get roads fixed have not been successful. District authorities say they are working hard at fixing roads, but we need support.
90% is about feeder roads. The reshaping normally done by the assembly and some to done by the regional feeder roads. So we are moving hand in hand with them.
Residents say economic activities have collapsed due to this. Several investors have refused to set up businesses in the district due to the poor road network.
These roads are very, very bad, especially those within our district. And so it is very difficult for us to get investors coming. Even during our festival, those who are convinced enough to come, when they come, they don't want to return again because of poor roads. We have the view that if the government is able to give us good roads, the rest should be left with us.
Residents of the district are appealing to government to come to their aid.
Let's do some politics now, and former President John Dramani Mahama says the New Patriotic Party government has not fulfilled a single promise in its 2016 campaign. The former president says the NPP has lost focus in the administration of the state, making every Ghanaian cry over poverty. Johnson Techi reports.
Former President John Dramani Mahama joined the National Democratic Congress at a peace walk which lasted for 3 hours at the Techiman Zongo MA School Park in the Bono Ahapu region. He said the NPP deceived Ghanaians, leading to the party's success in the 2016 general elections.
Branch executive so, regional executive so, constituency executive so, national executive so, Yamba Modia send your Nipa dom no peno omo ne be yom na me wajidie se nyame adom san ne beba no na ba no san so a na 2020 de nyame adom Arizona 2020 de
Well, on that political note, we conclude News at 10. It came to you live from our studios here at Desawe in Accra. Thanks very much for watching. My name is Parkwisi Asare. I'll see you tomorrow.